In a peaceful village surrounded by thick forests and winding rivers, there lived a young man named Tunde. Tunde was in his 20s, strong, energetic, and full of life. But he had one problem that everyone in the village knew. He talked too much. It was not just ordinary talking. Tunde spoke without thinking. He shared things that were not his to share. He interrupted elders and laughed loudly when silence was needed. Some villagers avoided him, others warned him. An old woman once told him, "A restless tongue is more dangerous than a sharp knife." But Tunde would only laugh. "What harm can words do?" he would say. Every morning, Tunde would walk through the market, greeting everyone, but never just greeting. He would stop, gossip, exaggerate stories, and reveal things people told him in confidence. "Did you hear what happened at the chief's house? I know something nobody else knows." He enjoyed the attention. It made him feel important, but slowly, people stopped trusting him. When serious matters were discussed, Tunde was never invited. Still, he did not change. One evening, the village chief called for a meeting. The air was tense. "My people," the chief began, "there are thieves moving from village to village. They attack at night and steal from travelers." Murmurs spread across the crowd. "Tomorrow," the chief continued, "important traders will rest in our village. They carry gold, ivory, and valuable goods. We must protect them." He then called a few trusted men aside and spoke in a low voice. Tunde was not among them, but Tunde had a habit. He listened where he was not invited. From behind a nearby hut, he overheard everything, where the traders would sleep and where their treasures would be hidden for safety. Tunde smiled to himself. "I know something important again," he whispered. As the sun began to set, Tunde went to the river. The sky was orange, and the water reflected the fading light. There, he met a stranger. The man looked tired, like a traveler. "Good evening," the stranger said gently. "You look like a man with something on his mind." Tunde chuckled proudly. "You are right. I know something very important." The stranger leaned closer. "Tell me, my friend, I am only a traveler." Tunde hesitated for a moment, but only for a moment. Then his mouth opened, and once it did not stop. He spoke of the traders, he spoke of the gold, he spoke of where everything would be hidden. The stranger listened quietly, smiling. When Tunde finished, the man nodded. "Thank you," he said softly, and he disappeared into the night. That night, the village slept peacefully, but deep in the darkness, shadows moved. The thieves came. They did not search. They did not guess. They went straight to the hidden place. Within minutes, the treasures were gone. By the time the alarm was raised, it was too late. The next morning, the village was filled with anger and confusion. The traders were devastated. The chief was silent. "This is not ordinary theft," he said finally. Someone spoke. The villagers looked at one another. Slowly, suspicion grew. It did not take long before the truth reached the chief. All eyes turned to Tunde. Tunde stood in the center of the village. For the first time in his life, he had nothing to say. His mouth, once full of endless words, was now dry and silent. I did not know," he stammered. "I was only talking." The chief looked at him with deep disappointment. "A man is not judged by how much he speaks," the chief said, "but by what he chooses to keep." The village fell silent. Tunde felt the weight of every word he had ever spoken. From that day on, everything changed. People no longer trusted Tunde. Conversation stopped when he approached. Even his friends kept their distance. For the first time, he understood. Words have power, and careless words bring destruction. Weeks passed. Tunde began to change. He listened more. He spoke less. He thought before opening his mouth. It was not easy, but slowly, people began to notice. One day, the old woman who once warned him smiled and said, "You are learning. Silence is also wisdom." Moral of the story: a man who talks too much loses what a wise man protects.